Okay guys, so you've started investing in say Bitcoin and Ethereum and you're ready to start playing around with some altcoins and really starting to build out your portfolio. But where do you start? In this video, I'm going to show you how to start thinking about your portfolio from a theme perspective and my top 10 altcoins which you should be taking a look at. So first up, Ethereum. You know I'm going to say this already, but let's start from our portfolio in a broad perspective. Now, I always ask people that are new to crypto to think about their portfolio as 1% of their entire net worth. So if you're cautious and you've got some money in real estate or equities or any other investment forms, I would suggest you to start around with about 1%. Now, those of you a bit more confident or willing to take on more risk, feel free to kind of build that up to 5% or more. I'm a bit more. But that's a sensible way to kind of start building that out. Then from that amount, so you figured out that 1% of your entire net worth, I would say you put 50% into Bitcoin. Now, the remainder 50% is what I'm talking about here in these next 10 altcoins. And the first one I talk about is Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is a no-brainer. It was here from the start. It's the OG, as people like to say, and it's a power horse at this point. Whether it's the dApps, the DeFi networks, the NFTs, it's very good with gaming, and Ethereum has a burn mechanism which they've introduced with EIP 1559. We know Ethereum 2.0 is around the corner, which is going to move Ethereum from a proof of work to proof of stake mechanism, and that could be huge for Ethereum, although we've been waiting for a while. So definitely, first up, and it doesn't need a lot of explaining, you need some Ethereum in your portfolio. Next up, and a personal favorite of mine, is Cardano, ADA. So I was buying this in really early last year, and I've really benefited from the boom that's going up. And the reason that I really liked Cardano was a few things. The first being the proof of stake model. Cardano were one of the pioneers of the proof of stake model, and they've really taken an academic approach to building out their blockchain. So where Ethereum has been a bit more move fast, break things, like a Facebook type of company, where they're happy to just get things done and kind of break things along the way and move from what they're doing now, proof of work to proof of stake. Cardano's taken a really peer-reviewed, slow research, methodical approach to building out their blockchain. And as a mathematician myself, I can really appreciate where their founder, Charles Hoskinson, is going with his approach. He's really taking things slow. He's not getting caught up in, the euphoria around people saying, come on, launch this, launch that. He's taking it slow. He's doing it the way that he knows best, and he doesn't want to make any mistakes. And that's why I respect from him. So with Cardano, you're going to get an eco-friendly, interoperable chain which works with other blockchains. He's going to have smart contracts and NFTs, no doubt, on there. But the other thing I like is there's a fixed supply of Cardano sitting at 45 million. And that's an important thing when looking at the tokenomics of any of these altcoins. And the last thing, which I think is often overlooked by a lot of the other blockchains out there, are the fact that Cardano are focusing on Africa and the third world. They're really looking at use cases for a blockchain where us in some of the Western countries have taken certain things for granted with our given infrastructure. And I think that's a really important point, and one of the points where blockchains will really thrive going forward. Now, the next one is a bit of a controversial one, and it's BNB. Now, we know Binance is the largest cryptocurrency exchange, centralized cryptocurrency exchange globally. Whether it's trading, payment processing, ICOs, Binance is the place to be, and they have a wealth of different products and services. And to do all of those, you need the Binance coin, you need BNB. And when you have BNB, you can benefit from reduced fees. And that's one of the things that's really helped surge BNB. And we saw when Bitcoin climbed to 60,000 heights, BNB really did run with it. The only thing we can see now as a risk are the regulatory concerns, and they're not to be smirked at, because these are some serious regulatory concerns which Binance need to figure out. But what does give me a little bit of confidence with Binance are they have a wealth of funds to really go ahead and tackle these regulatory issues, hire the right people, and work their way through this issue. I also think the price has already priced in all these regulatory concerns, because we saw when it ran, it really pushed through the $600 mark. And now it's kind of priced in a much lower price, and I still think it's a sensible thing to have as a small allocation. Next up, and looking at this from a thematic point of view, we want to have some sort of a coin which allows us to integrate different blockchains, and that's where Polkadot comes into it. Now, Polkadot uses some parachain technology to really integrate blockchains between each other, and this is going to be really important because, as we can see in these early days of crypto, we can see a lot of great singular blockchains, some of which we're covering in this video today. But how do you get them to really start being interoperable with each other? That's a really key component. And how do we get them, if one's speaking Japanese and one's speaking English, how do we get them to share data and converse with each other? And that's the problem that Polkadot is trying to solve. And that's why I think it's a great use case and one which deserves a small allocation in our portfolio. Next up, Solana, and this is one which has gone absolutely wild. Now, I bought Solana earlier in the year in the 28s and low 30 marks, so my average cost is about $30, and it's really blown up and it's just crossed the $100 mark. Now, what's important with Solana, what I like about Solana, and the reason I bought in at those low prices when nobody was talking about it, was they focused on the basics. They said, we want to be a fast, secure, and scalable blockchain, and that's it. They're not throwing on a whole bunch of other things. They're happy to build those on later on. And initially they got those three key components absolutely spot on. So to put this into perspective, Bitcoin is offering you about 5 transactions per second. I believe Ethereum's at about 17 transactions per second, and Cardano, which we spoke about earlier in this video, are probably about 250 transactions per second. Solana, 65,000 transactions per second. And yes, they have a theoretical limit of 700,000 as the platform matures and as Moore's law continues to help bring the price of technology down. Now, to put that into perspective, the Nasdaq operates at about 500,000 transactions per second. So we can compete with that at Solana's theoretical limit. So it's a really big powerhouse. Now, they've also got amazing block times, really fast block times, and super low fees. They work through a combination of proof of history and a proof of stake model. Proof of history allows them to put a timestamp amongst transactions so there's no confusion about when it occurred on the blockchain. Okay, so we spoke about allowing blockchains to talk together and solving that problem. But the other issue we have is, how do we get data from out of blockchains into a blockchain? And that's where Link comes into it. Link is a data oracle, and this is going to be really important as a use case when smart contracts become very often used. And what's going to happen here is, when you have a smart contract, you can have different variables in that smart contract. And those variables could be based on data which sits outside of the blockchain. I'll give you a very basic, crude example. Let's say you have a smart contract which will pay your friend $100 if the temperature goes above 35 degrees. Now, the data for the temperature could come in from Link as a data oracle, and then the smart contract can execute when that data source hits 35 degrees. And you can imagine how this can be of use with stock prices coming in, with different sensors and temperature. And as the Internet of Connected Things continue to become more ubiquitous in today's world, you can see all of these data streams coming through Link into our smart contract, whether that's an Ethereum smart contract, whether it's a Cardano smart contract, whether it's a Solana smart contract, based on Link being the data provider, the oracle for all these systems. So a really important use case, and definitely one you want to be looking at for your portfolio. Next up, and a one which is often missed, is Uniswap. Now, Uniswap is an Ethereum-based dApp, and it's the biggest decentralized exchange in the world. Now, we spoke about Binance being the biggest centralized exchange, but I also want to hedge my bets a little bit and have some Uniswap in there. After all, why was this cryptocurrency space built? Is to have decentralization. So if these centralized exchanges were to collapse, and Coinbases and Binance and all these platforms start to struggle for regulatory reasons or any other reasons, then at least you've got the reason why we are here in the first place, which is Uniswap. And if you're to use all the different decentralized exchanges out there, Uniswap is the most simple and easy to use with the greatest amount of liquidity. So definitely one you want to be looking at, Uni. Now, the other point with Uni is, we saw with EIP 1559 that as things become more transparent and easier to use on the Ethereum blockchain, more people are starting to interact with gaming, with NFTs, with DeFi, and in order to make sure they have the right coins for their platforms, where are they doing these swaps? They're doing them with their, let's say, MetaMask wallet, and they're using Uniswap. Now, sticking to great use cases, my next one is VeChain, which is Vetcoin. Now, this is a really powerful use case and definitely adds to the thematic element we're trying to build with this portfolio. So VeChain is an enterprise inventory solution, and it's the biggest, and it has some of the biggest partnerships in China with Louis Vuitton Group and some of the other major institutions, and it has some great leverage at this point. Now, think of it like this. What they help you do is track your inventory from endpoint to endpoint, and this is a real big pain for massive corporates out there. Let's say you're buying an AP watch, a really expensive AP watch. Now, what VeChain will allow you to do is have a unique reference point on the blockchain which confirms the authenticity of that watch. So you don't need to be worried that you have a knockoff version, a fake, a counterpart. You have the official one, and you can imagine the use cases you can do with this. VeChain have been helping with vaccine rollouts, they help with a lot of designer and luxury brands, and a lot of companies are using them so users can scan the code and see the authenticity and the tracking of where that product has gone. Who's owned this watch before? How many owners did it have? Imagine for the car industry, imagine for retail, being able to track your inventory from shipment container to shipment container. This is a really powerful solution. It's one that RFID has tried to resolve in the normal world, but VeChain with their blockchain technology really gives it that added level of decentralization, so you know nobody is messing around and fobbing the counterfeits off without you knowing. Okay, so we've spoken about interoperability, we've spoken about transaction speeds, we've spoken about creating data oracles and getting your data into blockchains. We've even spoke about the decentralized exchanges. We picked a centralized exchange. But now we need to think about what's called a layer 2 solution, and my choice would be Polygon Matic. Now, this is an Ethereum layer 2 solution, and what it does is it allows you to speed up transactions on the native Ethereum. So in the absence of Ethereum 2.0, and even after Ethereum 2.0 happens, you still want a faster solution, and you can do that by plugging in a layer 2 on top. So transactions, instead of on the busy Ethereum network, can happen on the layer 2 network, and the receipt or the history is just posted down to the original Ethereum or layer 1 network and stored on the blockchain. So a really powerful solution, something which is going to be important for a lot of the native blockchains, whether it's Cardano, whether it's Solana, whether it's Ethereum. You can see layer 2 solutions being a big theme across all of these because people are going to want fast, low fees interoperability, and that's really important, and my vote would be with Matic at this point. And finally, we need a metaverse play. So we've spoken about all the different things in the blockchain space. We had VeChain for our inventory controls, and the metaverse play I will be opting for is Sand. Now you can also pick Decentraland, Mana, there's a few other interesting ones, but the idea here is you do want a little bit of exposure to some of this metaverse. And this is a great digital real estate play. So for those of you who don't know much about Sand, it's a game where you can go online, you can buy some Sand coin, and you can buy virtual lands, and you can create things on these lands. And the reality is, brands will want to start buying these lands and advertising on these lands. So if you're the early holder of some of these lands, you can really benefit from the appreciation seen over the next couple of years. We've seen that with Decentraland. We've seen a lot of big companies starting to buy things on that platform. It'll be the same with Sandbox. These are a great play. And again, you just want to play with a little bit of your portfolio to put in some sort of a metaverse play. So there you have it, guys. There's your first kind of broad look at how you can start thinking about structuring your portfolio. You start off with a percentage of your entire net worth. I recommend 1%. As and when you get more confident with crypto, feel free to start increasing that. You then want to take that 1%, make sure half of that's in Bitcoin, and with the remaining half, you want to play around with some altcoins. Obviously, associate more weight with the plays you have higher conviction to, such as Ethereum, but you do want to have a broad range of different use cases, and that's what I've tried to walk you through here. There'll be different coins which you may prefer in certain of these different themes, and I implore you to do your research, understand which ones you prefer. But as a general idea, you want to be looking at layer 2 technologies, you want to be looking at fast platforms with good transaction per second, you want to be looking at smart contracts, you want to be looking at NFTs, you want to be looking at data oracles, you want to be looking at things like we spoke about Polkadot, which gives you the interoperability between blockchains. These are all the different themes we want to start looking at. And then you can start looking at some of the more interesting use cases such as gaming. You can look at the metaverses like we did with Sandbox and start building out your portfolio from there. So there you go, guys. I really hope you found that useful in starting to think about your portfolio. If you want to see any more detail on any of these coins, feel free to comment below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.